So I just want to fly through these slides. Feel free, if it works for you, great. It's all about setting a personal vision. So feel free to put in the chat window any thoughts, questions, or anything like that. I am going to see if my chat window, I'm going to put it over on the other screen. So it's Jeremy, first time you're in Toronto, awesome. Cool. So let's jump into this. What emotions that I want to use the chat window we can share between us. If you guys are okay with this, I think it would be interesting. I'll also join in the chat window myself, typing things. So what emotions have you noticed over the last 2 to 3 weeks come up for you? So I'm kind of interested in emotional awareness, things that are going on in coronavirus or just even going through goal setting or stepping out the comfort zone. So this is more of a Q&A for the chat window to just kind of feel what we're doing right now, what we're going through. So I'm going to type in some answers. Feel free to, I'll ask each question, then we can type something in and share it. And then we'll move on to the next question. So I'll try and keep them quick as well. I think that, like the first 1 or 2 thoughts that come up are probably good gut feelings as well. So I'm going to write what's been coming up for me. Ignore my spelling as well. I messed up there. Cool. So Phil, I'm not sure if are you typing, Phil?
I am, yeah.
I'll just go forward to the next one because there's quite a few, but feel free to keep typing and posting. So I talked about this last time. I'm not sure if any of you saw the talk. I know me and Phil have talked about this before, but I use this chart so much now day to day, and just to kind of feel like some of the things we're going through, like fear, definitely comes up in so many different forms. There's so many emotional words behind fear that ultimately categorize down to fear. Some people might be going through anger in this scenario, but so I'm not going to dig into this, but I want to keep it very focused because we'll keep on referencing it. The key point here is the bottom half are, I guess, more of the negative things where you kind of close up and feel tight and feel frustrated, anxiety, that kind of build up, maybe a loss of control. And as you kind of get to courage, that's when things start to turn into, you're starting to kind of project your energy out there and connect to people better, and open more doors, basically. So we'll come back to that quite a bit. What are 2 or 3 goals? And maybe for time here, you could just think of one. I'm just going to focus on my key one. So what's your key goal that you guys have? And if you don't have anything at this time, no worries. You can write that too. Cool. So this is kind of a journaling thing. I'm not going to read it out on the video because we're recording. So these are kind of our private things, but it's going to get interesting as we go a bit deeper. What is one goal that is bigger than us that you can think of that you really care about, that you have a passion about? So often, some of our goals are very, I'd like to have a nice car and one day, and I'd like to sell my business. But what's more of a goal that is a bit deeper in terms of giving, helping the world, or overcoming a challenge that involves helping other people? And we can type that into. And where did your goals come from? So I think this gets really, really interesting. And I did this exercise one time, and you can write down all of the, it's very easy years and years ago to think I want to be really fit and I want to have this muscle mass, but I want a fast car, or I want to start a business. But where are these goals coming from? So write down who created these goals, and more importantly, did you create them, or were they taught to us? And I'm going to write a bit of detail, and I will share it on the video here. So, you know, my goal for Goalfire, of a kind of a platform one day that can help many, many people grow, but then also create the cycle of giving back. That goal, I want to say specifically, came from the most difficult time in my life. So it definitely came from the core. So for me, after getting through my situation, that basically directly gave me the tools to create this platform. Okay, so let's pick one goal, and then imagine, Mike, I will read what you said. I know a bit of a challenge setting up goals. So I do have a slide around that, and I'm not sure where it is, but we will get to that. Maybe you could think of, for now, try and think of some passions, things that maybe trigger you, things that you're really curious about, passionate about. And, you know, goal doesn't have to be this massive thing. So if you can pick one goal or a passion, imagine that you have it. And if you guys don't mind sharing maybe what you feel if you have that goal. So what does it feel like? So I'm thinking of you know, what emotional kind of experiences feel more complete, you feel more confident. So I'm going to write mine. If you're pretty clear on your goals and you're not heading towards them right now, if you're heading towards them with good momentum, then awesome. But if not, what things come up as blockers for you, particularly on that kind of emotional scale? We probably touched on this already in various fears. You know, what excuses come up? You can share them privately with us in the group. Yeah, emotions, excuses, fears, particularly also what external things, you know, any kind of blame of I can't do this because of, you know, someone isn't giving me the opportunity, or you know, money is also often a big one that comes up. Let's see what comes up. So for me, so I'm happy to share some of my things. So strangely enough, a fear of public speaking, that it was actually, I write my goals, my bigger goals on a board at the beginning of the year. And kind of public speaking was one of my goals because I knew that was one of my fears, essentially. Not something that scares the hell out of me, but something that I find uncomfortable, and I just don't have experience doing it. So, you know, falling into this situation was very interesting and a really good opportunity for me to kind of push through. And later we're going to talk about tension a lot, and dealing with tension to actually get out of the comfort zone, which is really is where all of our goals, I think, are. And I've been calling that recently the resistance tunnel, and there's certain things to try and get through that tunnel to get out the other end. So if any of these resonate with you, then just maybe put which one in the chat does. There's a lot of blocks out there, and I think we all have many of these things. And I think we grow up with these things. We grow up with a lot of rules. I almost don't want to say what my first thought was, but I said I would be authentic. So I wanted to mention, for me, like going through marriage, and I don't have anything against marriage. My marriage was amazing, and many these days carry so many expectations, and that can make things really tough. And then you feel like you have to be a certain person to kind of maintain these things. I think work environments a lot can be very much like that too. You have to sometimes be a chameleon and adapt and change and be slightly not yourself, sometimes a lot not yourself. I think judgments of ourselves, but you know, worrying what other people think is super common. That is definitely ongoing one for me. I'm gradually getting better. Sorry if there's any spelling mistakes here, by the way. I literally did this last night. Judgment from others and embarrassment, I'm going to put. And for me, it was interesting, some of the dance classes I've done over the last 2 or 3 years, because it sounds, to some, it might sound like a silly thing, but so I've gone to these hip hop classes for a long time with a guy called Eric in the city. He's amazing. And I keep going because I just keep on laughing and I have the best time of my life. But I see way more than the dance class, the hip hop class. I see a bunch of amazing 20-year-olds, just, you know, because there's only a couple of us as older people in there, and they're having the time of their life. And that Eric, the teacher, is incredible because he encourages everyone at a young age to get out the comfort zone, to go big and completely try to aim for embarrassing themselves a little bit, you know, in stages. And it's really interesting to see the impact on the kids. They just, you know, dance in ways that they just feel is completely natural, like embrace their own character inside. And through that kind of environment, it's really interesting to see when you let go of a lot of fear of what people think or how stupid you look. It's really interesting. And I think we can learn a lot of lessons. And I haven't even read over these, so they're kind of coming through to me almost as surprises of the order of them. From emotions and excuses and fears. So from some of the things we think about so for me, kind of worrying about judgment of others in certain times, in certain environments. Is it possible, and this might be tricky now, you probably need more time to sit and get deep, but what's underneath the fears and those kind of emotional problems, not problems, but the real emotions that come up, what's underneath? Like, is there another level that you can think of? For me, I'm going to put judgment from others is a long-term pattern for me, which I finally realized of trying to please everyone and being too nice. So we've talked about goals. We're kind of down to the blocks and emotional fears. And then this question, Edison, is around things that are blocking you from your goals. You know, what's one level deeper? So maybe you have to go into the past. Maybe for some of us, if okay, go into more of a childhood issue. And, you know, and it's super, super common, right? I don't think anyone goes through their childhood and their education without some kind of trauma at some level. I really don't. We're all insecure in certain areas, and the more we kind of share that, the more we kind of connect together. Which I think, if anything, with coronavirus, I think, you know, it's a good opportunity for us to do this, to connect together. So on to the next question. What are your daily passion habits? So not your daily habits in terms of, you know, brushing your teeth or showering, but we're talking about habits this whole last week. And in relation to your goals that you feel are true goals, that you feel you gave yourself and someone else did not create for you, you know, in terms of you have to climb a career ladder, you have to reach this status, this role at work. With your actual goals that mean something to you, maybe list down 1 or 2 daily passion habits. If you've been doing that this week, then great. But if you haven't yet, can you think of just 2 or 3 steps towards that passionate goal? And with the habits, I'm thinking also, you know, these tiny steps, you know, 2-minute kind of size things that you could, at minimum 2 minutes, that you could get started with. So for me, fitness, and that does tie to a bigger goal. One of my deeper reasons for fitness is to be older and be able to, you know, play with grandkids and feel like I can take on any challenge I can, hopefully, through fitness. Like, I can take on physical challenges when I'm older. I think that will bring me a lot of happiness in my future, and then pass on that happiness with generations. Cool. So I've got fitness goals. What else do I have? I literally have a goal file app here. I have a lot of connection goals. So I know, Phil, if you don't mind me mentioning that, because I think that's a great one. I feel like we don't learn a lot of connection skills, in our education. We certainly don't, have a class on listening, like empathetic listening or something like that. And we kind of just find our way through, and then maybe we get in a relationship, and maybe that relationship ends, and then we're kind of out there again and thinking it's hard work to get back into a connection. It's a big confidence challenge. So learning real connection for me, like authentic connection of not trying to be that chameleon, not trying to be too nice, but to just like me and Phil was saying the other day, if 80% of the people like you, but you're being 100% real, then that's way better than 100% people liking you because you're being fake and you're being a chameleon adapting to people. Cool. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate everyone using the chat here. It's super helpful. I think this is one we're on. So how many days of your week start off with intention? So with some kind of plan. And I'm not talking like a dull plan of, you start spreadsheeting everything you do. We're talking, you have those passion habits now. So not the goals, but broken down to these bite-sized habits and tiny steps. And how many days of your week would you say? So this is an easy one to answer in the chat. I'm just going to put somewhere between 5 and 6 days with intention, and I would like that to be 7. Yeah, if you could put the number in there. And awesome, Phil. Cool. Are you guys? You're flying. And how many days of those do you feel like you're in control? I'm going to throw that question in. This is really interesting. Awesome. What do you feel most mornings? Like you're in control of your mornings in some way are you, an interesting question. Are you creating your happiness in the mornings? Do you have a routine that puts you into that upper stage? Puts you into that upper stage of the upper half of the scale. Phil, I'm with you. Coffee.
Just joking around.
No, it's a boost. I actually want to share mornings because morning routines very quickly, because I'll probably do a whole nother like little mini post on that. But so my morning routine, which is, I never used to have a morning routine. I used to, just wake up, roll over, look at the phone, check emails, just kind of groggily somehow make it out of bed, and then go get my coffee. And it feels really different now. I try to have a plan, and music for me is a huge one. So if I'm taking a shower, I have a waterproof speaker, I stick on some music, I try and move a bit. So some people dance in the shower. That's awesome. I did the other day to Despacito, so I'm definitely oversharing, but that's what this is all about. So and I felt great actually, and I tried to do a bit of exercise. So I try and do my push-ups. That's one of my habits because it kind of invigorates my body in the morning. And I know a lot of people like to do meditation. Read in the chat here. So yeah, awesome. Gratitude is massive, and we're going to do a whole like gratitude post. I try and do 3 gratitudes in the morning, 3 every evening. And if I'm out and about on trails, I'm super lucky where we live. Sometimes I just stop in the middle of the trail and just take in everything around you I'm not just talking about I see a beautiful view and that's it. I'm talking about, there's one great gratitude thing that I heard a few weeks ago. And it was, I can't remember the numbers, but or the which order things went, but it was kind of 5 things you see, 5 things that you hear, 4 things that you hear, well, all of the senses. It was a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then by the end of that experience, it's amazing. Like you feel that gratitude so much deeper. So there's a lot of morning routines, and I think we can all have our own unique one, and whatever works best for you. But think of that emotional chart. What would get you from this groggy state of checking an email and thinking, oh, damn it, like, I got to deal with that now, into some kind of frustration down at the lower levels, anxiety. Oh, I got to mention media. Oh, let's be super, super careful what comes in. Emails, media, super careful. Like, I try and avoid most of the media. You know, it's 99% negative. There's real stories out there, obviously, but let's be very, very careful what we take in. You can choose, again, you can choose what you take in. I'm just reading comments as well. Yeah, breathing is massive. Yeah, thanks for mentioning that. It is on this chart later, but I think breathing is almost one of the biggest things that you can do in any situation where you're feeling in that lower half, any conflict situation. Breathing creates a gap between what is happening, you know, external things that happen to you, like someone just cutting you up on the road and shouting. Breathing stops your instant response that might not be very constructive, and it takes you into a more place where you can decide how you want to respond. Do you feel small pulling away? So this is an overall bigger question. So I guess generalize this maybe over the last few weeks. Phil, that's awesome. I'm pleased. And then I guess, you know, just feel what percentage of the time you feel in both of these states. I think we all feel in both of these states at different times of the week. So it's kind of a balance thing. And we want to aim to feel opening up, vibrant and big. I say vibrant because that emotional scale, we'll go into it a bit more on another talk, but they talk about, you know, lots of scientific evidence about the actual vibrations when you are in the upper half of that scale. And, you know, like attracts like, love attracts love. And when you're in that state, there's proven science around the vibrations of it as well. So when you're closing up, you're literally less energy. And when you're opening up, you're projecting energy. Now, if that sounds strange to some people, I think most of us here kind of are on that same vibe. But, you know, I've experienced that. I said to Phil the other day, I always remember people actually saying to me, I could feel your energy in certain situations. And I was blown away, like how, you know, sometimes even just eye contact can be a massive one. Like Phil said the other day, a smile as one of your habits, as you're listening to someone, you know, that can create connection and energy. I like it, Jeremy. Jeremy mentioned opposites attract, and that reminds me of polarity as well. And polarity, definitely in like masculine, feminine, is a beautiful thing. It's like that, the opposites of masculine, feminine energies. That gets to a whole nother realm and a whole bunch of books I can think of, but they're super, super interesting. So yeah, polarity and balance and ups and downs. Many talk about this, and it's super, super powerful. Do you back away from tension? So this is the out of the comfort zone experience consistently. By out of the comfort zone, I mean, if you start to feel tension as you head towards some of your bigger goals, or your more out of the comfort zone thing, do you back away from that tension? Do you pull back, or do you have the confidence to, or the courage to start to push through a little bit? Because I never used to. Now I kind of have a lot more feeling about breathing into it. That's a huge one. So good. Breathing into the tension. So your relationship to tension, and a lot of my learnings from this came from one of my favorites. It's interesting we've got all guys on here because it would be super relatable. There's a really amazing channel called Fearless, the Fearless Man. And, you know, some of it's about, you know, relationships with how to be comfortable talking to girls, because for guys, that's a super hard thing. for many of us, we're not taught with that, and sometimes it comes out in very, very strange ways. But there's a really cool channel, Fearless Man. He touches on so many of these topics, and it's a lot of my learnings came from there. I went to one of their workshops in Miami. It was incredible. It's all about emotional release. Everything is genuine, and everything is about the tension and dealing with tension as a skill and not something to back away from. Phil, interesting. And I like that. I'll share what you said. Well, why didn't you say it, Phil?
Yeah, I guess it's actually quite thought-provoking when you ask that question about tension. I almost feel unfulfilled if I don't have tension in my life. And it's something I strive not to have, but I honestly do have a tendency to create it from time to time, to force me to face my demon, I guess, or look towards something that I'm uncomfortable with. So not the best way to motivate yourself, to be honest, but I think it's just a byproduct of my history, my stress of my job and all that kind of stuff that I used to have. So it's is what it is, I guess. But tension can be a positive thing. It can, being lackadaisical or unengaged is probably does more damage than having to manage tension, I believe.
Awesome. Thanks. Yeah, it's super interesting. Like over the last 2 or 3 years, this one, dealing with tension, has almost been like you guys have said there, almost potentially aiming for tension or comfortable with tension. And everything that I've found that has lit me up and been amazing over the last 2 or 3 years has really been on the other side of that tension. So I think this is one of the biggest keys. So you guys don't have to do this now. I'm enjoying it. So we'll keep going. So, but just do this in your own time. These are some of the exercises that will really, really kind of change my perspective on a lot of things. And I could describe this exercise in very, very different terms, because it was basically 2 columns of F yes and no way. If it's not an F yes, then it's a no. And put things in 2 columns, and then everything you did in that week, and then just see where things lie. Which things align with your passions, of things you really wanted to do for yourself. So we were talking about selfish versus self-focused the other day, Phil, and the wording of it. But think of self-focused, of things that light you up, make you in that top part of the emotional scale, your passions. How many things were in that column? So spend some time to do that, maybe over the next few days. Another one. So Mind Valley stuff is amazing. I love Mind Valley, Vishen, and his book, The Code of the Extraordinary Mind. I think most of my books are, I do have a lot here, but most of them are audio books. The Code of the Extraordinary Mind is, if you want to get deep into the emotional levels, and he talks about the culture scape, which is kind of the society that we all grew up in, which has a mixture of rules that still serve us and still very, very valuable, but then tons of rules that we kind of grew up with that's bullshit, potentially, to us, right? Some, they may work for people, but they may absolutely not work for us. And sometimes we live with those for our whole life, and then we get to the end and think, where did I learn that rule from, and why have I been following it all my life? Like, why do I care what someone thinks when I dance stupid, or I look stiff when I dance? Why do I care what people think? Like, why do I have to look a certain way? It's probably not the best example, but you know what I'm saying, right? Down the line, think of at least 5 of these rules that do not serve you. Because I did this exercise. Where is that book? Because I love it. It's called Not Nice. And it sounds really bad, but I needed it because I was too nice, and I wasn't quite being myself. So they had a really, really good exercise of write down all of the rules that you think are valid for relationships. Write down all of the rules that are valid for career and how things should go at work, and all of the rules and the morals that you have. So write down in every area of your life the rules, and then basically pick a few of the key ones that may not necessarily work for you, and then find out where they came from. So who taught them to you, and is it just something that got passed on by generations? And nothing wrong with that. You know, everyone's trying to do their best in every generation. But where did they come from, and do they serve you now? And so when we say we're really short of time these days, and I haven't got time to do this, I haven't got time to learn to play the guitar, I haven't got time to go to dance lessons. But if you took away some of the bullshit rules, and you could probably find quite a bit of interesting time.